Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to Revelation TV and also to a special interview with Pastor Terry Jones. Pastor Terry, you're the founder and director of Stand Up America, and you used to be the pastor of the Dove World Outreach Center in Gainesville, Florida. You've caused a tremendous amount of controversy all over the world, and especially of the Muslim faith, for burning their Koran. You're even barred from entering the UK for the public good. But please first give us an overview as to what motivated you to burn the Koran publicly.
Well, I believe it was, of course, quite a process. I think it all started, as you might be aware of, I spent 30 years in Europe as a missionary. I saw at that time the growth of the radical element of Islam. And as we came back here to America, we thought it was necessary to draw attention to that. One of the first things that we did was put a sign in our church property. Of course, the very big event that we did is we had an international Burn a Quran Day that was basically to protest the radical element of Islam. Later on, we had International Judge the Quran Day. That was to give the Quran and the experts on the Quran a fair opportunity to show us that the Quran is actually a book of peace and not a book that, as we believe, sooner or later does lead or can lead to violent terrorist activities. At that particular time, the book was found guilty and it was punished by burning. We feel a definite calling to raise an awareness of this radical element of Islam. We are by no means against Muslims, or we are not against moderate Muslims who desire to come to our country and obey the Constitution, submit to the laws of the land. Our target group is without a doubt the radical element of Islam, or the area of Islam that desires to come to our country and slowly change the Constitution and institute Sharia.
You did this judgment between yourself and church members, is that correct?
That is incorrect. We had a very fair trial. We had experts on both sides of the fence. We had Sheikh Imam Al-Hassan from Texas. He is in charge there of the Islamic Center. He is the one who defended the Quran. We had Ahmed Abaza as the prosecuting attorney. Abaza is a very prominent, well-known family in Egypt. All of the witnesses were Arabs. The trial was done in Arabic and in English. These were all people who were either still Muslims or were Muslims at one time and converted to Christianity. In other words, people who knew and know the Quran. This was not done by somebody down the street. These actual people were all experts in the language that was their language, and they were all experts concerning the Quran.
So who were the members of the jury then?
The jury was made up of, we had made this public and asked for volunteers. We did have on the jury no Muslims.
That's very one-sided.
Yeah, possibly. That doesn't rule it out as being unfair. We opened it up, and no one on that particular side came. We did have several Muslims who did attend the ceremony, the judgment, the court proceedings. We had people from around Florida. We had people from Georgia. We even had a couple as far away as from Austria. What we tried to do was tell them to please do not be for or against the Quran. Just simply try to listen to the evidence. That is what we tried to do. I believe we will make that trial public. I believe that if a person watches the trial, they will find that it was done very fairly. Both sides had around 2 hours or 2.5 hours to present their case. Inside of that period of time, they could do whatever they want. They could call witnesses. That time was given to them to conduct their part of the court proceedings as they desired.
A very strange setup, I must admit, because there was no independent witnesses or members of the jury that were not biased or prejudiced.
I don't know if you can actually go that far to say that. What we did, as in a normal court, when someone's called for jury duty here in the United States, they are asked certain questions. They are asked whether or not they feel that person is already guilty or not. We tried to do it as fairly as possible. Of course, it is probably totally impossible to be 100% fair. Even if we would have had Muslims on the jury, then the question is, even if the Muslims thought the Quran was guilty according to the evidence, would they really say that? Of course, we could only do the best that we could do by presenting and giving both sides a very fair opportunity to present their case.
Can you give us an example of some of the questions that you put to the defendant?
Yeah, I didn't ask any questions. Like I said, the Quran was defended by the man that I mentioned. The prosecuting attorney was the Ahmed Obaza. They called several witnesses. Yeah, I believe the main point of the Quran was pointing out and explaining the many verses in the Quran that appear to be very violent.
It's an example.
That appear to be kill unbelievers wherever you find them, talking about the killing of Jews. I believe that we're all aware of those verses. Those verses are not secret.
Exactly.
The only question is, people try to say they don't actually really mean that. The interpretation is wrong. The fact that the verses exist is quite obvious. And that's what we were trying to clear up. That is why we had people of the language. That is why we had the trial was done in Arabic and in English to try to present a fair case, to give the Muslims an opportunity to explain to us why those verses really do not mean that.
Were the Muslims given a right of appeal?
No, there was no appeal. They had, of course, their time was allotted. Like I said, everyone had around 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then they could give their end presentation. I believe that lasted around a half an hour, and then at that time the jury was dismissed to come back with a verdict.
Well, obviously they came back with a guilty verdict, but how did you arrive at the punishment of burning the Quran?
Yeah, we felt we had to keep it in accordance with a normal court here in America. If you are accused of a certain act, if you're accused of murder, if you are found innocent, then of course you get to go home. If the Quran had been found innocent, then I would have issued a public apology for the insulting of the Quran and of Muslims. If it was found guilty, then we had on our website 4 forms of punishment. They were burning, drowning, shredding, and the Quran was to face a firing squad. People were allowed to vote on our Facebook and our website, standupamericannow.org, and the overwhelming majority of people voted for burning.
It sounds very bizarre, Pastor Terry. Do you not think it's a little bit wacky?
Yeah, to me it does not sound wacky at all. I can understand how people had problems with our first undertaking, International Burn a Quran Day, but this was really to give the Muslims an opportunity to actually prove that the Quran is not as it appears to be. Plus, that this all had actually a purpose. This evidence, this showing of the Quran, it actually has a purpose. Our end purpose is to bring this evidence that we see through hundreds of years of Muslim and Quran and Sharia dominated countries. Our purpose is to bring this evidence to Washington, D.C. What we would desire is that President Obama other government officials in America, around the world, that they would go in front of the UN. We believe that it is definitely time to demand that Islamic-dominated countries like even Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Indonesia, Afghanistan, that they adapt human rights, that they adapt freedom of speech, freedom of religion, that minorities and Christians in those countries do not have to fear for their life. That is actually our end effect. Our end effect is not to put on some type of show or trial, but to show that actually the results of the Quran, no matter what they say.
Right, but surely, Pastor Terry, sorry to interrupt you, but surely the Muslims could point to Christianity as being one who should be facing such court case, because of if you look at the Old Testament, for example, you would see that God instructed the Israelites to put to death man, woman, and child, like in Canaan, for example.
Yeah, I don't know that. For one thing, it's in the Old Testament, not in the New Testament. For another thing, that's not what we do. I don't understand why people have such. I mean, we see this for hundreds of years. In Saudi Arabia, a woman cannot even have a driver's license. We see for hundreds of years. My problem is not the verses in the Quran and then we explain them, or we pull some stuff out of the Bible. And Jesus said in the New Testament, "I have come to bring the sword." My problem is not the fact that we pull out verses to try to justify, to try to defend. My problem is we don't see in reality, if the Quran is a book of peace, we do not see in reality that peace in Muslim-dominated countries. Even in our own country here, we have no problem with Muslims. They are protected under the Constitution. We have a problem with Sharia law. We have a problem with actually not what they say. Everybody speaks peace. But we have a problem with what they do. In those countries, there is no freedom of speech and religion. Something is wrong. If it's not the Quran, fine. But something is wrong.
We'd all agree with you with that. In particular, the way that it's so evident when you look at world events that the radical Muslims are killing indiscriminately, and their actions are not godly in that sense. But are we to be their judge? Do we have the right or to really incite them to hatred and to provoke, if you like, their wrath? And we put at risk other people, other Westerners, missionaries that are working in Muslim countries. We've got the example that happened in Afghanistan recently, where the United Nations staff were attacked by a mob, angry because of what you did in burning the Quran. Do you not accept some responsibility for those terrible killings?
Yeah, to first answer the question, do we have a right? I believe it goes far beyond a right. We have the obligation.
To burn the Quran?
People have asked me before, to stand up. People have asked me before, well, why do you do this? Why do you do this? Why do you care what is going on to some Christian in Afghanistan? Why do you do this? We do this because we can. See, we have to do it. We can do it. Christians in Saudi Arabia, in Afghanistan, in these countries, if they stand up, they will be killed. We in the West, we have not only the right, we have an obligation to stand up for those who cannot. And
stand up in what way? I mean, Jesus, what would Jesus have done, Pastor Terry? Would he have burnt the Quran? Would he have burnt the Quran publicly?
Absolutely.